Hello and welcome into the SorareData Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined, as always, by Sean Newsham, PSU Fans 2 on Sorare. Today to talk about the new Capped Mode 240 contest. Sean, could you think of a better name for getting people so excited to play something, huh?
Yeah, the name's pretty terrible, but I mean, they're not really known for like having good names, right? Because they made the Division 2 into Super Rare, which is terrible. So, I mean, it fits in with their overall thought process.
I'm curious if that's what they call it. Clement brought up whether they were going to call it CM 240. And then it goes back, it reminded me of the whole like SO5 versus SO5. And so I don't know how you like mispronounce Cap Mode 240, but either way, we have a lot of interest in this because there's obviously many more opportunities for people to win threshold rewards. I feel like I talked about this kind of at length with Andy during Sorare Andrews. If anyone hasn't checked that out, it's on our YouTube page. You can find it there or anywhere where you listen. And everyone seemed really excited because they were like, finally, we get limited thresholds. We get super rare thresholds. This is awesome. Can't wait. And then the more everyone looks into it, they're like, oh, this might actually be a little harder than it used to be. And I actually think it's going to be much harder than it used to be, which I think is part of the point. Like, I think the current all-star rare 205, 250, get your money and leave was too easy. And that's kind of the way that everyone thought of it. And so they made it more difficult, but they at least let you have more opportunities to compete. So what was kind of your at least initial reaction since you weren't there on Thursday with Andy? Like, how do you feel about this move? You think it's a positive, or is it just kind of like another thing that's there?
I think overall it's a positive. I mean, I think here's the takeaways ahead from 205 was just so easy. Like it was just really easy. Like 205 was super simple to get to. And the way that it is now, so there's a pro and a con, I guess, with how it is now. And then there's like some overall pros with it. There's only one con that I can really see, but the way that it was just really easy to hit stuff. And I'm not a fan of the sort of leeches that are on the site that are just there to collect their thresholds with the dumpiest players and then withdraw it and not really put funds back in. So I don't care about those players. I'm going to be completely honest. I do not care about someone that is going to just grind thresholds and withdraw. If that's someone that has to leave the platform now, I don't care. They can go bye-bye. So I think it was too easy. I think that it made it difficult. The thing that I don't like about it, I don't actually like the cap mode for it because it sets up to where you do not have the ability to like play the same guys over and over again. So it's going to force people to move in and out of cards, which is good in theory that like you have to go in and out of cards. But then also it's a situation where like it's going to be really difficult to hit. Like I don't think people understand it's going to be difficult to hit because your lineup is a 240 max lineup and you have to hit 250 points. So your lineup in theory is expected to not hit that. So I think we're to see a drastic number of people not be able to hit the threshold. Like you effectively are going to need above average scores from every player that you run in that lineup over and over again. So I think you're going to see like you are very frequently not going to hit the threshold. So, and then the positives are that it was just too easy. So, like, I'm glad we just got rid of the super easy stuff that this wasn't going to happen. But our good buddy Perez, dude was sitting there on Twitter saying there's no way they're ever going to give a limited threshold all week. They're not going to give no chance. I saw Perez. I was laughing because, I mean, I'm sure we saw some tweets out there, right? And people bragging about how they impacted and influenced the decision, which didn't happen. But it was also funny because I just sit there and I actually had a hot take. I said that Perez was going to be the one with egg on his face after the announcement was my hot take, and he was. He got absolutely body bagged by the take, but his argument was that he didn't get body bagged by the take, that other people were just still wrong, which, I mean, he wasn't totally wrong with, but it was pretty funny.
I'm going to side with Perez on this one, actually, because I think I don't even consider this like a threshold. Like, this is the game that they are introducing at the end of January is not remotely close to what you can do in All-Star Rare. So this idea that they were like, yeah, there's limited threshold now. And it's like, well, there is a game where you have to reach a certain amount and you get paid if you hit that amount. But it's just so different than what we have right now. And so there was this, I think the idea of a basic limited threshold before the announcement was 205, 250, or people were like, oh, if it's too easy, we'll do 250 and 300 and you can just take your 5 guys and churn every week. But like, this is way different. And so I'm going to side with Perez. This is just another ETH competition. This is not threshold.
I agree with that. That's fair. Like, they effectively removed the threshold and gave something similar in its place that people have to come up with. What I was happy about, and like, someone can be like, oh, you're a whale, that's why you care about this. Well, yeah, I mean, I generally care about everyone getting something they want. I can't stand the whale haters out there, and I can't stand the like limited haters out there. Like, everyone matters from the perspective of like what you get out of it. But like, I'm glad that there was a super rare impact of this, and I'm glad that there was a unique impact of this. Everyone deserved a bump from those. The one thing that also that I think was impactful here is, in my opinion, the position / thing that was the most undervalued on the platform is what in theory should get the biggest bump from a price rise here. And that is both super rares and super rare goalies. Those were like the things that were the most undervalued and like things that people didn't care about on the platform. And now they are more impacted and more impactful than how it goes. Also, so Josh Forth is here, so he can leave after we talk about it. But this is a sidebar in the side tangent, then I'll go back into it. So I will troll pretty much anyone when their team is losing in sports, and I will like make fun of them and joke around. I felt so bad making fun of Josh Forth during the England game on Saturday. He was so riled up at everything that happened. Like, I'm talking, like, I'm in chats with Josh. Josh never really complains about anything. He doesn't really like rant or like bitch about, oh, this happened, blah blah. Like, I'm talking like the ball, like someone like waved at a guy, and Josh was like screaming at the top of his lungs in chat that it should be like a red card. The guy should be sent off. I was just sitting there like laughing. I couldn't even troll. Like, I'm sitting there watching England, and I wanted France to win so bad. I wanted Giroud to score so bad so I could post na 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 Giroud and just like post big pictures of Giroud. But I felt so bad because I was like, Josh is one of the few people that I like wouldn't troll about it. But I'm just sitting there watching it and reading along, and I'm just like, Josh was like the roided up dude at the gym that just gets pissed off at everything on Saturday. He was like he was like throwing things out the window, or like what is the British term? Throwing the toys out the pram. Is that the word? Josh was like throwing toys out the pram on like Saturday. He was so pissed off the entire game.
Josh felt that one. I'll give it that.
Yeah, Josh was not happy.
He had all the feels during that game, and yeah, result didn't go his way.
No, it was like, I'm literally everything Josh was going nuts about. But anyways, back to the discussion. I think that the super rares, uniques, limiteds getting something is accurate. So yeah, Josh just confirmed the toys were fully out of the pram. So I think that it was an overall good thing. I think it just brings a whole nother dimension to how you have to do things. The issue is, so here's my hot take, and I'm curious what you're going to say about it. There's no strategy to it. It's just like, you're going to play guys that end up at like 240 points, and that's it. Like, you can't just lock in the same players every week. Like, you can't look for like U40 players. You're just going to be like, this is sort of what fits, and I'm going to do it. Like, you don't want to go buy a bunch of players for this, because like, they go from a 42 player to a 47 player, which is like one game where they get a decisive, and then all of a sudden, like, you can't play that guy with the same guys anymore. So I just think that I liked Underdog and Specialist because I liked the sort of thoughts that had to go into them on each and every week. This, I don't really think there's much thought that goes into it. You just sort of like, yeah, there's going to be random spots where like someone's got a low L15 that they're better than that or whatever. But like overall, it's just sort of not much thought to it.
So I've gotten some feedback recently that I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to disagree with you and explain why. So
I did get that feedback, and I mean, smart guy in my opinion.
Apologies for everybody who doesn't want me to disagree with Sean.
For
But
those unaware, Laird was basically told to shut up and just listen to Sean and learn from me, which I mean,
confirmed.
Can't deny that.
We found Sean's burner account, and there it was. But anyway, so I think you don't research for this and you just throw your cards, whatever you have in, is a very whaley comment. So
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah, great. So it's just that the time frame of your research is significantly more condensed, which is exactly what we see in NBA. And clearly this idea came from NBA because they've had this capped mode the entire time. So I think there are going to be a lot more people making buying and selling cards based off of this competition, cap mode 240, particularly in limiteds. We'll definitely see it in rares. I feel like everyone who does it in super rare is probably making a mistake, but they'll do it anyway. And then I can't speak at all about uniques, but I think, so just like you said, like the L15s change every game week. And so you can't be like, oh, let me go 6 weeks ahead and let me look and they're 239. So I'll be good for that game week. Cause obviously they're different. So it puts a much smaller time frame on the research you can do in order to get in. And it's possible that there are people who are like, I have these 5 cards and they come in at 236 or 231. And like, I can just play that until they don't fit, because just because everyone changes every game week doesn't mean that they all go up. And it doesn't mean that you win every game week. And if you don't win one game week, you can always just play that lineup again. And the lineup week to week is, at least the potential of that lineup is different because opponents change. I get that. But I do think there are going to be people who run basically the same lineups every week as long as they can. And so I don't think they'll be that successful in it. And I think we're going to see a lot of people making suboptimal decisions because they get to a cap of 234 and they're like, I got 6 more. Maybe I should like get somebody else who has a higher L15, and you're actually taking a worse player, which is something that Andy and I were talking about in NBA that happens all the time, that people are like, I got to spend all the cap, and you don't. Like, people do make bad decisions just because they feel like they have to fill the cap.
Yep.
But I think we're just going to see a lot of movement with limiteds and rares moving like basically exactly like the like NBA, where if there's like, we've been calling them cheat codes, the really low L15 guy come back from injury or comes into a starting spot, a backup goalie who's now starting, like those situations, everyone rushes to those guys. And I think we're going to see that a lot. And I think we are underestimating, or maybe you are underestimating, how many people will just YOLO every week to get guys into threshold.
Well, I mean, something to note here that I do think is important. If you are looking at it from a 1 week perspective, which is realistically all I think you can look at it for, if you buy one guy and it's like, if I buy this guy, I'm going to hit the threshold, you're getting 0.04 ETH from hitting there, or not the threshold. Are we still calling it the threshold? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're like, if I buy so-and-so for this price point, do I hit the threshold? And if the answer to that is yes, well, it makes a lot of sense to buy that guy if he's like 0.1 card, because you're getting half of his return by just buying him. The real answer to this, and this is what I told you about and I laughed about it, is that the real answer to all of this is that you just need to buy more cards and have more cards. The more cards you have, the more options you'll have week in, week out, and be impactful. But yeah, like the idea is that sort of there's just not going to be tons of decisions on a week-to-week basis. You're just going to look at your cards and be like, all right, this is sort of what fits, and not like, oh, or if you need to buy a card, you're going to be like, I need a card 52 or below, and then you're going to go look for like a card 52 or below and find them. I think that, so David Alves said, in months, people are going to be disappointed. They're going to be complaining because effectively there's no free lunch money. Yeah, I agree. I think people are going to be like, as it was currently set up, could probably hit the threshold 80 to 90% of the time, the big threshold. Like if I averaged all of them, like I'm probably hitting the big threshold 80 to 90% of the time. In the new format, like I'm going to probably hit the threshold like 25% of the time, maybe. And that's, and maybe a little bit higher, but that's because I have so many cards to sort of play with that it sort of makes sense.
Yeah, I think the big difference is that I think there are going to be a lot of people who make that Cat Mode 240 their priority lineup.
Yeah,
like
I will not do that.
You will not
on my list now.
No, yeah, you will not. No. So I think the lower scarcity contest, limited 240, Cat Mode 240, rare. Like I think there are a lot of people, like if you were basically playing for All-Star Rare every week, and this isn't like people who like bought 5 cards and they were just like, oh yeah, let me just farm ETH. Because the number of people who did that is much lower than people think.
Yeah.
There are maybe there are more people who do it, but they're unsuccessful. And so there's really not that many people who farm this. So people who focus on All-Star Rare, and they're like, I just want to hit the threshold every week, and I'm willing to buy cards to do it and whatnot. I think those people just move to Cat Mode 240, and they're like, that's my priority every week. And then like, I'll throw my extras in All-Star Rare as opposed to like the opposite, or All-Star Limited, whatever it is. And so your point of like, it's beneficial to have a lot of cards, which is like true with every competition. Like,
yeah.
Like the Cat Mode is not any different. But, and this is sort of the exact same thing that we come up with in NBA is it better to have a lot of cards right away, or, going into game weeks, or is it better to not spend all of your ETH on like a plethora of cards, and each week you now have more ETH because you haven't bought like this wide range of cards, to just every week say, I'm going to buy 1 or 2 players and have it fit in. And so I think it just depends on your budget. Like if you're working on a limited budget, you're not going to go out and just buy a bunch of cheap cards that have low L15s that like maybe could pop off just for the game weeks where they could explode and be really beneficial for your lineups. And the other funny thing is, in those situations, which is exactly what we see in NBA, if you happen to land on one of these like cheat code cards, it might be better to sell them than to use them in lineups.
A lot of the time it is.
Right. A lot of times it is. It's significantly less fun because you don't have a lineup, but it's usually the more profitable way to do it.
Correct.
So yes, more cards is always great, but not everybody has a budget to just like go out and buy a bunch of cards. I was scrolling through the chat here, and thank you to everybody who has joined. If you guys hit the like button, this is obviously a topic a lot of people are interested in, so I'm glad we're talking about it. One of the big things we haven't touched on yet, which is probably because we don't know the answer, is we don't really know what the rewards are other than ETH. So like, we knew that Specialist offered rewards on the next scarcity, so limited cards to win rares. Underdog, you were able to win tier 1 of the same or tier 0 of the same scarcity. So we don't know yet what the rewards will look like for Cat Mode. Correct. So I think we will know very quickly where Sorare wants us to put our lineups.
Correct.
Based on the rewards. So like,
I agree with that.
So if the rewards are really good, valuable. Yeah. So if the rewards in Cat Mode are really good, then we know that's where they want us to play, and maybe where they push everybody to play. Because theoretically, it's like a more fair game because it rewards more research or whatever, and you can't just like buy the best players.
Correct. I think that's very accurate. We're gonna know right away, like, to be fair, it incentivizes them not to do that, right? Incentivizes them to not make the Cat Mode the primary mode, because If the cap mode's the primary mode, then they're going to give out ETH on top of the rewards, and they would rather have worse lines going into there and getting the ETH. But to me, guys that make the most sense, I think, from a strategy standpoint, are having a lot of guys like Maxi Wittek, like fullbacks. Having a lot of fullbacks that are super high variance makes a lot of sense for two reasons. One, they're going to have their L15 is going to be pretty, like, it's going to be in between their games. Like if I look at Wittek, right? So Wittek has in his L15, he has 4 games below 30. And he has 6 games 60 or above. But his L15 is 51 because they all sort of offset each other. But like if I'm looking at games and I'm like, oh, Maxi Wittek played like Ajax. This game, obviously, he got a decisive. But all right, you remove the decisive from Wittek's game against Ajax. Oh, he had 20.
You're 20, yeah.
You know who I'm not playing against Ajax if I have them in a lineup? Wittek. But what that does is that lowers, Wittek plays Camber this weekend. Well, that 20 against Ajax sure helped lower his score so that it's a more realistic score. So I actually think fullbacks are a bit better for this game mode because they're going to be a bit more spread out on things. So I'm definitely thinking that the more fullbacks you have, the more appealing it will be long-term.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think one of the, not that anybody is actually overlooking this, but the goalkeeper is so important because generally you don't have a goalie with an L, like you probably don't want to play a goalie with like an L15 of 65.
Like Passphere?
Right.
Oh, no. Sorry. Passphere's at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. He's actually, well, Passphere actually makes sense because he's like low L15. And if he gets a clean sheet, then you're at 60. And like the goal is to outperform your L15. And the goalkeeper has the easiest path to that as long as they're not one of the elite ones who just bang 65s every week because they don't play anyone good. But so the goalie is really important, which is funny because on the show with Andy on Thursday, we were like, oh, people are going to start playing like DNP goalies because it's like a 0 on your cap. And then you can spend up on the 4. And it's like, well, that we kind of walked through why that's not ideal.
Yeah.
But like goalkeepers are probably the most realistic upside plays in terms of their L15. Yeah. Just because of the clean sheet potential. And obviously, if they don't get the clean sheet, then, I mean, some of them still outperform just on saves and whatnot. But like the goalkeeper is probably not one you want to avoid. Which
no, I mean, you don't. You want 5 guys. The idea is you want as many people to go past their projection as possible. And if you just remove someone, you're removing someone that can go past their projection. Like if you play a guy if you play 4 guys that average 60 and you play a 0 goalie and those 4 guys average 59, you lose and you don't get anything. So your idea is that you need them to actually beat whatever their score is. So the whole idea is sort of like looking at your player and being like, this is what my guy's L15 is. I expect him to exceed it in this game for whatever reason. And then you are like, that's the guy I want to play. So like it can, like if I'm looking at my guys, like I will look at I'll look at my players and it's like you're probably not playing those high-end dudes. You're not playing like the Dusan Tadic. You're not playing like Neymar, Messi. Not just because they're expensive or anything, but like that's just not who you're probably playing here. You're playing a guy that has like an L15 of 50 that you're looking at him. You're like, I think he's going to score like 65 this game. That's the type of guys you want, which again goes to the point I made earlier of like, you just want to have as many cards as possible because if you have more cards, then you can find a lot more people that are like that.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, again, it's just if you have more cards.
Correct. I mean, but it's true.
Yeah, I think it's just really difficult to kind of forecast what kind of lineups people are putting in there before we know the rewards. And we're taping this is December 12th. January 30th is when this goes.
Yeah, but we'll probably get a calendar in the beginning of January. But either way, like you're at least a few weeks off. You're like a month off probably.
Right. And so the rewards in this cap mode are so important because if people start if people look at the rewards, and presumably the rewards are coming from where where the underdog and specialist prize pools were, because those are going away. If the cap modes are really good, people are going to start focusing there. Theoretically, it becomes easier to win in the regular competitions because more people are playing elsewhere. So you're competing against fewer people. That's kind of assuming that the rewards stay the same in there and they're not actually taking rewards from the regular competitions and putting them in the cap mode, which I don't think they'll do, but I have no idea. Do you think that we see more competition in the limited because people are like, I'm done with rare, with all-star rare, let me just try in limited? Or is the $5 threshold not enough for people to go there?
I don't know. I think all the people that drop down to limited are like people that drop down originally from rare to limited are like the people you're like, why are you doing that? Like you're just going to play the tiddlywinks game down the street. Like, are they really going to do that again? I don't know. I think it's more so like, I don't think it matters. I don't think it's going to be as impactful from rare to limited. I think it's more of a question from super rare to rare because it's a bit more difficult, obviously, to get super rare goalies and come out with a 5-man super rare line. Like for you to come out with like a realistic 5-man super rare line, you're spending at least 5 to 10 ETH. Whereas you can obviously spend way less in the rare level. I'm interested. Someone asked us earlier. Let me scroll up here and see it. But it was basically asked like how we think it's going to impact people for the super rare division. Like how is Division 2 going to be impacted? And
I think you just muted yourself. That's kind of funny, just as you were like, and this is the
answer. I did mute it. Yeah, so I didn't mute it. Did you mute me?
No.
Oh, I didn't mute myself. Interesting. So I think that it's a situation where like the super rare division is going to be impacted because like I will speak from a personal standpoint. I frequently run rares in the goalie spot in the super rare division. I can't do that anymore. So now, like if in rare division, I will almost always have some rare goalies that have a good matchup, right? I only have like 6 super rare goalies to begin with that play. So when I look at it, it's like I don't have that many options from a super rare perspective. And that's right now. And I don't like tying up tons of ETH in it. Like I don't want to go and spend like U23 especially. U23 is going to be very heavily impacted. I only have the only 2 starters I have, and this is because I don't know what the deal is going to be with Tawny, but I have Osako and Kuka. And Kook ages out and Osako ages out next year. I think. Let me verify that on Osako. Osako might age out this year too. I think he has 1 more year left. He does. So Osako ages next year, but like Gaetan Kook ages out this year. So what am I supposed to do in U23 goalie? Because I was looking at it and like pretend I want like Mamardashvili. Like I think that's a realistic one, and I actually know this happened. So like I think it's a realistic option to look at. So I'm going to look at Mamardashvili, who I think is like one of the more stable U23 guys that doesn't age out. Mm-hmm. And I go look at it, and Markalele, I know, paid 5.9 ETH for his super rare. I don't have 5.9 ETH to go tie up on a U23 goalie super rare. Like I just don't have it. And not to mention, like even then, he's not even fantastic. Like he's just not. Like the fantastic U23 goalies are like Costa and Donnarumma. You have to pay like 10 plus for him. So then
doesn't Costa age out? They both age out.
Yeah, they both. Well, no, I don't think Costa does. Costa has another year left. I think. I would have sold him if he didn't. I'm pretty sure he has 1 more year left.
You're right.
Yeah, Costa doesn't age out. Yeah. But so like then I go look at like the U23 goalies. Like so let's just go look at the U23 goalies here and check to see like who makes sense. And you start looking down the list and it's like, all right, are you going to go buy Bilal Bayazit who ages out and his super rare is floor of 4.7? Like, is it a 4.7 card? No, but like I'm going to have to pay more. So like I'm looking through this list and like you find like Vandevort. Like Vandevort's super probably is like 6 to 8 ETH. I don't have 6 to 8 ETH to go in. Then you go look like, am I going to go buy do I want to go spend 1.8 ETH to buy a Joao Virginia super rare? Not really. So it's just a situation that I think it's a bit more tricky.
I think you're overlooking the fact that there aren't any good U23 goalies.
There are. It's just I don't really want to tie up funds in it. It's just like not what I want to do.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, you're like, oh, I have to go buy like an elite one to compete with.
You don't have to buy
the
elite one,
there's
but
nobody.
You buy like cheaper ones. You're spending at least like 2 ETH.
Yes. Oh, I mean, it's absolutely expensive, and frankly, we're going to see it a ton in like all-star with all of the regional super rare divisions. Like, yes. Plenty of people have 4 super rares, 4 outfield super rares, don't have the goalkeeper, and that's it. And now they can't play. And so I remember Surface actually mentioned this in chat in another stream we did, that basically was like, if you don't currently, this was like a month ago, if you don't have a super rare goalie, like, you're not really competing in the super rare division.
That's not true at all.
And I won a reward one week with a rare goalie in the super rare division. Like, recently I was like, I'm going to play all-star super rare because nobody's playing there, and I'm willing to compete with other people's extras.
Yeah.
And then I bought a super rare goalie, and I was like, man, maybe I should buy another. And I didn't, because it was like, I mean, tying up funds in goalie in any scarcity sucks. And so, like, doing it in super rare, so I didn't. And then, of course, this like announcement comes out that you have to have one. And
Surface is disagreeing with you that he was not the person that said that.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't.
Poor Surface is getting hit by a bus here. The Laird's driving over, and wasn't even him.
Hardly. So I think we're going to see many, many, many more people who currently compete in super rare give up. And theoretically, that means like outfield super rare prices should go down, because a lot of people are going to be trying to get out. But I'm not sure we're seeing these super rare goalkeeper prices go up, because like that was the initial response. Like, now that you need a super rare goalie in the super rare division, this has nothing to do with thresholds, although you do need them for that as well. But they were like, theoretically, prices should go up. Demand goes up. Supply is still limited. But I think many more people are actually going to give up playing in formerly D2, like the super rare division, that we might not see like this huge spike in super rare goalkeeper prices, because I just don't think the demand is big enough there to do it.
The issue is that
it'll be easy to sell, but you're not going to see prices just like move right up.
The issue is, if people stop playing the super rare division, it makes the rare pro way worse, because the idea with the super rare division is it's effectively like your scraps left after you've made your rare pro.
No, I think the people who compete in the super rare division are already competing in rare pro. Like, they're not using.
I'm saying, like, they're just gonna have cards sitting there that are not being used if they don't play.
I think that's what's going to happen. Or they sell the super rares.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's not even just goalie. Like, that's part of the thing too. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, Laird, I do not have elite level. I don't have forward super rares. Like, I do not have good forward super rares.
Nobody does.
And part of the issue is that I don't think unique division changed at all, except for the unique cap division, which is 4. But like, I use super rare forwards in D1 a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to do that as much anymore, because I'm going to need them for the Division 2 teams. So like, I probably have under 10 usable guys. And when I say usable, I'm considering Isaac Lidberg as usable. You probably don't even know who that is. So like, that's who I'm considering as like usable. So like, I just think that overall things are going to be you need to have more coverage on stuff. Some of the users might not know, this, Laird, but I bought Mbappe last week. Woo! we finally brought in Mbappe. I can't win one, so I decided to just buy one. Like the strat layer, just spend more money. It's always the go-to strat, right? But I wouldn't have probably bought it. Had I known this update was coming, I wouldn't have bought it because I probably need to spend 10 to 15 ETH on U20 or on super rare forwards and super rare goaltenders. Because my teams are too good not to be doing that. So I think I realistically should have been doing that. Like I literally, like I said, my U23 super situation is pretty good overall for now. It probably won't be as good once I age out. So like maybe I'll have to have another discussion about this or thought process in my mind in like 6 months about like how I want to do it. But I literally have Osako and Gaetan Kook. If Belgium doesn't play, I do not have a goalie for like the next 3 months, 2 months, no, 3 months. If he does not play a game on a game week, I do not have a goalie. What am I supposed to do? Similarly, like my U23 forward is literally like Oshiman. But the problem is that's also my like Champ Europe forward. So like it's like Oshiman. That's it. I have nothing in either category. So like I just probably would have spent my funds elsewhere because I probably need to. But at this point, I don't really know if that's viable without spending 20 ETH. And I don't have 20 ETH to go plop down.
Maybe you should sell Mbappe.
Well, that was literally a discussion I had. I literally was sitting there after the announcement came out. I think I bought Mbappe on when did the announcement come out? Thursday?
Yeah. Thursday, yeah.
Thursday. I bought Mbappe like Wednesday. I think I literally bought Mbappe Wednesday. And I was sitting there like after the announcement, I'm like, I might just have to go sell Mbappe right away. Not that I want to, but I just like I probably have like I have a couple ETH right now that I could spend. Which I always try to keep a little bit of funds available in case something comes up that I need, right? I don't want to ever be sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I need this and I don't have something. I have to sell something I want. I like can't sell, but I have to. So I don't like being in that position. So I try to keep, good news for me. Oh, never mind. People are doing some shady shit. It's the new Sorare showing the L5. Go look at Mbappe's L5. Or go look at Mbappe. Look at like the last couple things. There's a few people clearly manipulating the price.
Love when that happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm excited that Mbappe's price point has gone up, but it's pretty clear what's happened here.
Is that the same card? That's funny.
The same card was sold 3 times, I think.
I've never.
No, well, there was 2 separate cards, but it was like.
Oh yeah, it's 2 cards.
One guy's involved with 4 of the sales. One guy's involved with 4 of the sales. So there's no way there's not some weird shit going on there. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. It's.
I don't know why we're talking about Mbappe, but.
Oh, we were just talking because I'm like, I literally was looking at him. I bought him, and I was like, literally the next day, I'm like, I need to sell him because I need to open up funds and figure out what to do with these holes that I'm going to have that are pretty large and massive holes.
So, on the topic of that, I think we're going to see more people in that situation of I don't know where to play, and they choose to play the cat mode.
Maybe. Well, that's like, so when you're talking about, I don't think people are fully going to remove themselves from like the super division, but they might only play like 1 lineup instead of 4 lineups. So like over the regions, they're only going to play like 1 lineup.
Yeah. I think that's certainly possible. I just think the biggest thing to watch when we get to once everything is live is how many rewards people win or how long the rewards go below the 250 threshold. Like, can you win a reward without hitting the threshold? And if that's a yes, then I think people just bum rush those contests. And if the answer is no, then I don't know what we do.
People are going to want to go for the super threshold. Like people are going to go for it. I think that's going to be relatively competitive. But I do agree with you. Like currently, people are playing like let's say six super rare divisions. They might only play like 2 now. They might just like be like, all right, I'm only gonna play the cat mode and global all-star, and that's it.
Do you say most people are playing 6 super rare divisions?
No, but I'm saying like people that are playing like in the super division. Like
Yes.
you could be playing 6 super alliance or 4 super alliance. Now maybe you're going to turn that into 2 or 1 because you don't have the full allotment of super as a player and you were playing rares in those.
Well, I said it, I think, to Andy off stream, but like, so I just started playing All-Star Super Rare, and I think it actually makes more sense for me to play Threshold, like Super Rare.
Oh, definitely will. Unless you have high end super rares, you're definitely going to be more viable in Threshold. But again, that I think that another positive with this was that like mid level and like lower level type cards, especially super rares, are a lot more valuable now. Like a guy that scores 45 points, like an L15 of 45, way more viable than he was previously. Because now you're playing for that capped threshold instead of you're playing for
I think it depends
like,
on how the 45 is made. Like low volatility players who have an L15 of 45 really aren't that helpful.
No, I disagree. I disagree because sometimes it's still like you still want a guy that's just pretty consistent. You just get your 45 and then move on to the other guys because like that just it's valuable there. Like if you're like look at the rest of your guys, the idea is the most of the rest of your guys you're going to hope are like 30, 40 points above the numbers that you need. So you're just like, oh, all right, I just need a guy that's going to get me 45, and that's totally fine and acceptable here. Obviously, like I'm not saying. And we'll use like our old boy, Joao Mario, the forward card, right? Like let's just say forwards are expensive. You are going to need forwards and you're going to need goalies. Super forwards and super goalies are valuable. So Tuggy actually just said in chat, when does Sean buy Willie Carvalho? He's actually a lot more valuable, I think, in this game mode than he had been previously. But like if we look at Joao Mario, and like I'm not talking about like right now, I'm talking about like last year when he was like somewhat productive. But like if you're just a forward that rips off like 45s, that's fine. Like that is fine because if I know that like I'm gonna get 45 from you, I can play you and not really worry about you and just get my 45. And then you can make up those points elsewhere. Like that's really stable. And I think that's totally fine for this cat game mode. Like instead of going and actually spending legit funds on a super forward, you could buy a guy like this who's not really valuable to play in other competitions and use him in this cap game mode. Know that you're probably going to get like 45 from him, and then let these other guys sort of pick up the slack and just know that he's going to get you what he's supposed to get you. And that's important.
I mean, you're basically saying you're playing a guy like this so that you can get 3 decisives elsewhere.
No, I'm not saying you're going to get 3 decisives elsewhere. Your objective is to eclipse 250 points. If you have 3 guys, like let's say you have 350 average players that you are convinced are going to score 65 points for the week, for whatever reason. Like
sure. I mean, in that case, of course, yes.
Yeah, that's how this is going to play out. Every single week, you're going to look and be like, these are guys that I expect to eclipse what their L15 is. And you're going to be like, I expect this guy, and this guy to eclipse the L15 by 10 points. So all of a sudden, your 240 cap is really like 270. And then you're like, all right, well, this guy's super stable. So as long as they do what they're supposed to do, I'm going to just play this guy, lock in his 45 points, and move on and know that the other guys are going to probably exceed what they had to have. I'm not saying like you're just like, oh my God, this guy's the best player ever. But this is why it's a valuable card, Laird. He's not going to change much. His L15 is going to be pretty damn stable.
That I agree with.
If you have him and you always end up finding yourself in a spot where you need like a 45 type forward, he's always going to be in that range where he might fit. So it's always valuable to have a card like this effectively.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. But I think it's more just like the value is just in knowing what you're getting. And
yes.
Yeah. All right.
You can say it's not important, and it is, but it's not. Like you obviously need guys that are going to get past what there is, but there is merit to guys that are just going to be super stable players.
Yeah, it's not that I don't think it's not important. I just don't think it's overly helpful, like as helpful as we think it might be. Is he even still playing? What's going on? Is he hurt?
He's been in and out of the lineup. I don't know. I sold him to Harry. Harry trades bought him and he died immediately.
I sold mine a long time ago.
I think Harry paid like an ETH for it. Harry, how much did you pay me for it? I appreciate whatever it was.
It was a super rare?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very easy way to find out. There he is. 1 ETH.
I appreciate that sale.
But let's see it. Look at all this that he's won.
Yeah. And he's won 2 cards with it. And he's been absolutely abysmal.
Harry just runs good with these guys, man.
Yep.
Congratulations, by the way, Harry Trades, on winning the Vinicius Jr. today.
Yep.
Always fun. Anybody who hasn't seen, check out the Harry Trades YouTube channel. It's a nice little reveal. It was one of those reveals where it was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, he got kind of the card he wanted. And honestly, it's probably the best fit for his gallery was that exact card.
It was great. Yeah. So anyway, everybody go check that out. So I feel like everybody's got this, like, this is what you have to do. The easiest way to do it is this. The one in chat that I just happened to see, and again, thank you to everybody who is participating here. It's like one of the more popular ones we've had. So the Philly Dilly low volume guys are very helpful. What you want is a goalkeeper and 2 defenders stack, all average 40, and then the midfielder and forward average 60. So you need either decisives from your midfielder, forward, or a clean sheet and a decisive. I totally get the goalkeeper double defender combo. I don't know. Like, I actually feel like that might be one of the more popular strategies that people employ each week.
Probably.
The difficulty is that you're basically relying on that. I mean, I was going to say, like, you're relying on the clean sheet, but every time you do that, you're relying on the clean sheet. Like, nobody ever makes a goalkeeper defender stack and they're like, oh, it's fine if they give up 2 or 3.
Well, that is part of the thought process in regards to goalie in this game mode. Like, if you got a guy that's got an L15 of like 54 goal, if he doesn't get a clean sheet, like, that's going to hurt. You're going to be below and you're going to need to make it up elsewhere.
Yes. The kicker that I've seen recently, and I don't know if this gets corrected or not, but we've seen throughout the Global Cup that there are guys who have eligibility in like the international specials who aren't actually at the World Cup. And it was like guys who were, maybe they were on the preliminary roster, and that's when Sorare kind of updated them all. But a lot of those guys are getting DNPs. All of those guys are getting DNPs during the World Cup, which actually obviously affects their L5 and L15.
Yeah.
Who knows if they play enough games like after, before these competitions start. But I think we are going to see a lot of like wonky L15s to start.
That makes a good point, and it's true. Like, you got guys that like make sub appearance for a national team, but like don't start and are pretty mediocre for them. Like, they just like come on and play like 10 minutes. It's pretty valuable, in my opinion, in terms of like what you can get out of them as a player in terms of like the cap game mode. Because like he said, he used Jordan Morris as an example. And he subbed in twice and registered a 26 and a 24. Well, those are well below what the average is that Jordan Morris is going to get you in the long run. So like, though, if you get games like that, obviously the more times you sub in, the more helpful it is. But it is true. It is impactful and it is helpful.
It is funny because there's like such a similar mentality in NBA that like if there's a guy who is just crushing and then he plays like, it's classic Anthony Davis this past weekend. He played like 5 minutes and then went out, and everyone's like, no, that's good because it like pushes his L10 down. And so
it was a really good game. Yeah, that was really helpful for Anthony Davis. It's true. It's a massive difference too.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you register like 3 shitters, like it's huge over an L15.
Yeah. It's the one time that international play actually helps us.
Yeah.
At least the guys who don't play a lot.
If a goalie just gets a random start and like they aren't a normal starter, like it just gets you 1 game, right? Like if they put up 60, that's it. But like you get like an actual guy that just subs on and just rips off some turds, that's impactful. I also think those are the type of players you can play in this cap game mode. If you have a guy that subs on that like frequently, like always subs on, I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. But like they always sub on, but they never really do tons. You can just sort of like lock it up and know like, okay, this guy's going to sub on. I'm going to probably get what his sub on score is. So like, I'm thinking of like Ali Samata for
you're not going to want to play him though.
It's all about exceeding your score. That's all it's about.
I'm sorry. I meant like you obviously play him if you know he's going to start.
No, you don't even need him to start. You can play him and know that he's going to. So if you look at Samata's L15, so Samata's L15 is 29. If he subs on, he's going to, which he does every game, like except for one, he subs on every single game, and he gets 29. You're right on pace with what your numbers were there. That game where he puts, this is how you're going to win, by the way. This is how you're going to win the cap game mode. People aren't really talking about it. These are the type of players that if you play someone like this and they sub in and they score a goal, well, you just had an L15 of 29 put up a 63. That's a huge impact because of what it lets your other guys do. So realistically speaking, like if the cap, I'm going to do this later. I'm going to tell you right now, if this is how the cap game mode gets played, I will find guys that are like, obviously it's a benefit if he starts. Like if he gets a random start, awesome. That's fantastic. But like if I'm looking at Samata and I'm just like, all right, if he doesn't start, I'm going to get 28 out of him. Who gives a shit? Like that is exactly what I would expect out of him due to his L15. But if he scores, that's how you hit upside. Because you can play like two guys that sub in that are like L15 of 20 or of 25. Yep. So all of a sudden you have 190 points to spend on your other three spots and you just plug in three studs. And then like, let's say you have two Ali Samatas that both score. That's how you win the cap game mode. So if the cap game mode prize pool is that good, that's what you're going to want to do. Like without question, that is what you're going to want to do.
Theoretically, you can play him all the time.
Obvious bonus points if the guy actually does get a start every here and then.
Right.
Tony Martinez, great example. Like the guy's going to get 10 to 20 minutes. If he doesn't score, he's going to get you exactly what you're expecting him to get you anyways, and it doesn't matter. Like if he puts up 29, that is the 29 points he was supposed to put up. If he puts up 75,
well, sure.
That's how you easily get your threshold. So like these are the type of players that you're going to want to play, Laird. Very, very
I'm not going to play these guys.
Huh?
I'm not going to play these guys.
I'm 100% going to play these guys. This is where that guy tells you to shut up and listen to Sean, Laird. This is where he pops in. Like he's probably making that tweet right now.
That's right.
And letting you know that that's what you got to do.
He's waiting to hear your keyboard go, and then it goes, though.
Yep. Yeah, one sec.
So, yeah. So obviously this strategy requires your other guys to be really good, though. Or at least to outperform their own
correct
L15s.
Yeah, but it's not unrealistic that Samata outperforms his L15. Like it's no different than like me expecting Pedro Gonzalez to outscore his L15 of 60.
Say it again.
It's no different than me. Any player that you're playing, it is like you're hoping they exceed what their L15.
Yeah, sorry.
It is no different if I play this guy than if I play Neymar and his L15 is 78 and I need him to beat his 78.
Sure.
The only difference is this guy has a bigger upside within his path. Also, yeah, like are you going to really be spending Neymar and stuff in this competition? Maybe.
If you are, you're playing it with Tony.
Kai Havertz is actually probably a pretty good play for this game mode, to be completely honest. Because he does have a good chance to score, yet he's always going to have a sort of lesson. Where's Andy Black and Jimmer? We finally have found Kai Havertz's game mode.
It was Tuggy.
Tuggy knew. Tuggy said Kai Havertz is built for this. He is. He is a very good play for this in terms of especially the upside. Because he can definitely put up a 65, 70, and his L15 is going to always be stable around the low 40s.
L45 actually seems too high to be that helpful for somebody like Kai Havertz.
So Alan just said, if it lets you play Mbappe in a sick matchup, sure, but otherwise it's very narrow upside. It's actually way higher upside. Because in the scenario where you play a guy like this, where you play a guy that has a 25 L15 and he puts up 70, that exceeds his L15 by way more, and then you're just on pure points, and you just need to accumulate pure points from there. So, like a guy that has an L15 of 50 that puts up 100 is less than a guy who has an L15 of 25 that puts up an 80. He exceeds it more, so your upside is actually higher in this situation.
Yeah, I don't know if narrow upside was actually the right phrase. It was more it's guys like Martinez and Samata are less likely to hit 75 than they are whatever their L15 is. But
yeah,
obviously
so like,
when they
here's
do,
the thing.
they absolutely smash.
Their floor is huge because their floor is basically getting to their L15. Like if he subs on and plays 10 minutes and does nothing, and he puts up 27, that's pretty much his L15. So you're like, your floor is huge and your upside's huge. It's like the high floor, high upside play. Like
Right.
in this game mode, because he is going to reach what his expectancy is almost regardless. And then he has the ability to exceed it by quite a bit.
Right. Florian Wirtz was brought up in chat. He's got an L15 of 0. Just so everyone's aware that whatever his first game back is, that will be his new L15.
Correct. And that's the thing is like the first game. Yeah, but here's another thing though. If you guarantee a guy is coming back and going to play, like let's hypothetically say that Florian Wirtz is going to play the next game, and you know Florian Wirtz is going to play the next game.
Yep.
You probably lock him in because he exceeds his L15 by
playing
whatever he puts up. So even like this is what people will need to understand is that like playing a guy with an L15 of 0 and you are positive, even if he's going to sub, even if you're positive like Wirtz is going to just sub on, you play him because he exceeds his L15 by like at least 25. And then you just have those funds to use elsewhere on guys that are like, you play 460 guys that put up 60 and you easily hit your threshold. So it's definitely something to note that I think people are going to have struggle with. Anytime there's a player that has like a 0 L15 and you know they're going to play, you have to play him. Like if it's a goalie, you play him. It doesn't matter who they play, you play him. Same thing with a player. If a player like Wirtz is out for a year and then he comes back and you're positive he's going to at least sub on this game, play him. Because what he does is valuable to hit the threshold.
Frankly, a few sub appearances for Wirtz coming back would be better than him just starting right away.
Yeah, but even then, like so the day where he's going to sub on, you play him. And then you don't really play him again until he's like, you're like, all right, he's going to start and his L15 is like 20. Then you're like, play him. So it's like a couple different matchups. But there's definitely going to be some strategy where you're going to find where like you're like, all right, I'm going to play this guy for this reason. And it's going to make a lot of sense to do it to free up other stuff.
And I think as much as we want to play those guys,
Dumfries is great in this game mode too.
I think you're going to have more profitability success selling these guys than playing them.
Like I don't disagree with that. But you're not gonna be able to sell them if they're like Wirtz. Like you can't really sell Wirtz into like upside in this situation. But like, yeah, shitty guys that are like randomly getting a spot start, definitely. Dumfries is a great example of someone who's really good in this game mode because his L15 is always going to be absolutely horrendous. But when he has a good game, he's going to smack it and put up a massive score. So he's 100% a great guy to be playing in this game mode.
Yeah, I think even Wirtz is going to see a price increase as soon as he comes back.
Well, yeah, I mean he's going to see it, but I don't know if that's necessarily because of.
Although I guess he's coming. Well, no, he'll be, and the Bundesliga doesn't come back for a while, so
it's just not because it's not mode will already be a thing mode, though. Like his price raise isn't because of this game mode.
I'm saying I think it goes up when he's eligible for this game mode.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it matters. But like Dumfries, like if Dumfries goes into a game and he's like a massive favorite, Dumfries may be someone that would like spike up and go up like 10%.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're going to see some pretty wild price rises of guys that nobody really wants. And we see this in NBA all the time. There's a decent chance on a lot of these guys that you just end up holding the bag. Like they are really, really, really helpful one week, and then they're really not. I mean, it's exactly what we have seen, with Specialist or with Underdog when somebody is like an L15 of 40 and they're like, if it's a goalie in a really good matchup or any situation there, and then as soon as the game week starts, people just get out of them because they don't want to sell them and they don't want the card anymore. We're going to see it a lot here. So you're going to end up with a big gallery. Like if you're somebody who's going to trade in and out or try to, you're going to end up with a big gallery anyway, because these guys, like, there's significant value in a guy with an L10 an L15 of 30 when he's going to start and has a great matchup than when he's 48 after that game and he's not nearly as playable.
Yep, 100% agree.
Yeah. So where Josh brought up Bernardeschi, which I think is another, at least like when he moved, he had a really low Bernard, there he is, a really low L15, and then just did what European players do when they come to MLS. Yeah. Did we miss? I missed so many comments in chat. So thank you to everybody again. I don't think there's like a single strategy that works here, but I think one of the ones that a lot of people have overlooked is exactly what you were just talking about, are the really low L15 guys who may not even start or don't start, but always play.
Yeah.
That it just gives you more cap space. The upside is really high. Frankly, if those guys go off, you're probably winning a card in these things.
That's how you are going to win the cap game mode. So depending how good the prize pool is, that's how you're going to have to play it. And because you're probably going to do it twice, right? You're probably going to play like two guys like that, and then you're going to have pretty unlimited salary with the other guys. So it really just comes down to how good the game mode is in terms of what they're giving away from prize.
Right. Yeah. I'm very, very, very interested in how these rewards work out.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually also wonder if we'll see fewer rewards in super rare because fewer people will compete.
Hopefully not.
I agree. Hopefully not.
It was already bad. If you removed like 30% of the field, it would be better.
Certainly fewer people competing is a benefit for those who continue to compete.
That is true, Laird.
If the rewards are the same, but
valid.
Yeah, so we haven't heard that. Andy was in chat earlier and brought up that we don't have any rules yet on whether you can stack in Threshold because you couldn't stack as much in Specialist and Underdog.
I don't think there's going to be a rule set in regards to that, is my guess.
But that's my guess as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any other limitations that are just capped.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how many people do it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll certainly do goalkeeper, defender, maybe 2 defenders, but I think you could do 3 anyway in Specialist.
Yeah.
Did you play Specialist and Underdog seriously at all?
I won it twice, something.
Yeah, that wasn't my question though.
Yeah. No, I mean, I somewhat seriously. I mean, I had good cards that made sense in Specialist. I didn't really care about Underdog, despite it being the better prize pool, because like I was Underdog, you had to actually put some thought into it and work with. I didn't care. Specialist was more so like I would typically have really good cards that made sense to go into Specialist, so it worked pretty well for me.
I will say I think the best part of the cap mode is just that it's a full team salary cap, or L15 cap.
Yeah.
Because the number of players whose prices just absolutely tanked when they moved from a 38 to a 41, making them not nearly as helpful in Specialist was really frustrating.
That's going to be out the door now because they're all still going to be somewhat relevant, but you're never going to be able to play the same guys like every time realistically, unless they're like way below, because everyone's going to move up and down. It's going to change like what you can fit.
Yeah. I just don't think it's like drastically different. Like I think people who have 8 cards and they've been playing All-Star Rare this whole time, I don't think it actually is going to change them that much, except they're not going to win as many thresholds.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Thank you to everybody who has joined us. I think we touched on everything we wanted to, although I'm sure we'll get a bunch of questions as well. So I wouldn't rule out that we chat about this again, just because there's so much time before it starts. Now I'm going to complain that they gave us too much lead time, Sean.
No, I mean, I actually said,
I'm obviously not really
complaining. Here was the comment I had. How accurate is this comment? For the first time ever, they gave us a proper amount of lead time, and we literally didn't need any lead time. Like, I don't think this really changes anything.
I think it changes a lot for the single lineup people who play All-Star Rare.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't really see tons of an impact that this has in terms of changing stuff. Like this, I don't really see a lot of people that like this changes any strategy that they have over the near future.
Well, that's because
I mean, like once it comes out, I don't see what you would do today to prepare for this.
It's actually like beyond that, you literally cannot prepare.
Yeah.
Because of all of that. Luis does mention that the change in super rare, I think that is enough lead time. So I'm glad they did that. You're right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think for any type of change or bigger change should be like 3 months, which is close to what this was.
Yeah.
Like,
I think one of the things that helps in this situation in terms of the lead time is there's so little football between now and January 30th. Yeah. I mean, it does pick up mid-January, but like we're in a very dead period right now for most people. And so that helps. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of like over the next, I mean, it's like a month and a half before it starts, like where super rare prices go in terms of like whether we see fewer people entering or super rare goalkeeper prices, where those go. We will probably, we probably won't have any new cards coming before that, but we'll see, you know, MLS and K-League and J-League coming back in the spring. So we'll see what happens with those prices. But yeah, again, thank you to everybody who has joined us. If you all could please hit the like button. That's always really helpful for getting our videos to more people, thanks to YouTube. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, if you could please rate and review it wherever you listen. We'll be back next week. I'll be back later this week for the NBA show and Sorare Andrews on Thursday. And then, yeah, Sean and I will be back next week. If there's anything we didn't cover in this show that you would like us to touch on, feel free to reach out. You can find me at Andrew M. Laird on Twitter. Sean is at PSU Fans 2. He will just forward whatever he gets to me, so you may as well just send it to me right away. Thank you, and good luck.